Hey y'all, hey, it's another episode of Bonafide Her podcast featuring the one and only Ty Buttrey.
You're awesome, Ashley. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. I haven't had someone do that in a long time, so thank you.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great most days, honestly. Yeah, I just every day I wake up, I try to just attack my goals, do my thing. You see Sam and I building what we're building. Mainly Sam. I'm just kind of helping out in the background, but yeah, Ashley, I'm doing great. I'm doing really good. I'm healthy. I'm happy, and that's the most important aspect.
Amen. So let's get it started. So can you tell us like your sports journey to how you got to where you are?
Yeah, so started playing baseball when I was 4. Was a very competitive, inward competitive kid. You wouldn't ever really know that I was competitive on the outside. I always kind of kept it on the inside. So just really, I had other hobbies. Like I love video games. I love technology. I love, hanging out. Honestly, I'm a very big kid. I have a very big internal drive. I hold myself to a high standard and I like to push myself. And so for me, sports was a very good outlet. It allowed me to really like put my work ethic into something and see what it created. And that's where I think athletes and entrepreneurship is actually very similar, where you see a lot of athletes that are they're athletes on the field, but when they get out of sports, a lot of them get into entrepreneurship because it's kind of like a creation deal. You create this thing, this body that gets you onto the field to do what you got to do. And then when you get out of that, you don't have that competitive drive. You're like, well, what can I do that, curbs that competitive drive on the business side? And so I know I'm not really answering your question, but long story short, like played baseball when I was young, came up through the, middle school, high school. I had a baseball field in my backyard. I worked really hard. I failed a lot, got cut from a lot of teams, didn't make the all-star teams. Just kept believing in myself, to be honest. Like kept kind of thinking anytime I had failure, I knew I would just overcome it. It's something I've always done. And that mindset has really allowed me to reach the highest level in the big leagues and succeed as an MLB closer. And now that I'm done with baseball, I'm transitioning into an entrepreneurial world, working in different jobs and just kind of hustling and grinding and doing all that good stuff. So that's a lot for you, but that's kind of my take on what the question you asked.
Hey, I take anything, the entrepreneurship, the athletics, the every. Hey, there's no perfect answer. As long as the answer is just honest, I'm cool with it. So
I try to be super honest.
you fabulous with it too. So
Oh, good.
you always honest. So my question for you though, for real, is like, I always say, and I notice how like you advocate for athletes, even like after, you know, from your professional level. How do you continue to advocate athletes both on and off the field, especially with the holistic pitching that you do?
Yeah. So the holistic pitching path is actually my business partner, Harrison Francis. Him and I have known each other for a long time. I've known his brother, Bowden, for a longer time. And we've always kind of had the same mindset in terms of training, working hard, healthy. That was something that just as a baseball player, you meet these people throughout your journey. And for doing it for 13 years, you run into people that kind of gel and you guys all speak the same language. And so, holistic pitching path is something that I'm very passionate about. It's something that I want to continue to do, where in the sense of like, we're creating this remote program to help athletes. That's why like the holistic pitching path it's not just a remote program. It's not just a velocity program. I like to look at it as a community or a brotherhood, whatever that is, that connection where we are helping athletes throw harder, which is very important for pitchers, but we're also helping them understand the mental side and become better leaders, better, working harder, working through off the field issues, the mindset, the mental game, all these things that professional athletes have to go through to become better. That's where the holistic pitching path, and Harrison was the founder of it all. And I kind of joined up with him later because it just made a lot of sense, where instead of, just talking about one aspect of pitching, we're trying to create literally a holistic approach to pitching, because to be a big leaguer, that's what a lot of people, when they're young, they want to be Major League Baseball players. And so if you just focus on one aspect like velocity, well, you're going to be missing the mark and you may not make it to your highest level. So we really like to advocate for mental health. Like you said earlier, we like to advocate for working hard. We like to advocate people asking questions. We really try to make it an interactive community. But yeah, Ashley, I think that's just outside of holistic pitching path. I've always been a big advocate for just athletes doing more, like outside your sport. That's what Sam, that's what you preach. Like, yes, you're a great athlete, but man, well, athletes are crazy. Like athletes in a good way. Like they got a lot of things to them. Like they're very gifted people. They like to build and create and do all these things outside of just their sport. And on top of that, they're very hard workers, and they know how to push through barriers. They know how to break barriers, and that is a testament to athletes, around the world. Like that's why I think a lot of companies, when they hire people, they hire ex-military or ex-athlete, because one, they know how to handle adversity. They know how to handle, pushing through. I mean, it's really what life is about, is pushing through.
Of course, because you see, like we said, like athletes is a job what they're doing, but they have so much other passions probably outside that they couldn't do because of all the time that's consumed to what they were doing. So,
Right.
but my question for you is like, you know, what was the transition like? I remember asking this question, and it was at the Queen's Retreat. And what was the transition like? You playing 13 plus years in the majors in professional level, the transition from playing to pitching to you know to now being a regular daily life. Like what would you say is the transition like, and what advice would you give to someone that's going into that transition?
So I just want to take a little snapshot real quick. Ashley, say what's up.
Hey.
I want to tag you later. Great question. It's a scary question, honestly. It's weird. It's going like it's. We talked about this at the Queen's Retreat. It's unexpected. I think that's the word I told you. Like it's not like you don't really know what it means, because as an athlete that made it very high, that did things, as any athlete, whether you get to college D1, whether you play professional baseball, whether you play in the MLB, whatever it is, like athletes are very high performing. They have high standards on themselves. They want to be winners. They want to be the best. That's why we played sports. That's why we became who we were, because we were very competitive and we wanted to be the best. And so when you take that athlete or you take that human being outside of that sport and then you put them in another world, it gets a little bit tricky, because you don't necessarily know your place. You don't really know exactly how to act, how to speak. I mean, yes, there's communication skills that naturally transfold, but like it's like you got to go from, like, for me, it was like work all day, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to be the best athlete. I'm going to do it. I'm going to, here I am. Like I'm just going. But when you get into the work world, you can't just bulldoze yourself through people. And I've learned that lesson where, like, you have to kind of play the game a little bit. You got to play the game. You got to, speak the language. Like it's a language. Being an athlete's a language. Being an artist is a language. Hosting a podcast is a language. Being a businessman is a language. Being a 9 to 5 is a language. And you got to learn how to speak a bunch of different languages. And so when you're not used to speaking that language and you're used to speaking another language, it sounds weird to other people. And other people may get mad at it. They may not like it. They may get upset with it. They may love it. You don't know. And so for me, I was so used to speaking one language, and then I got into the real world. I don't want to say real world because it's all the real world. I got into the business corporate world, and I started trying to figure out, like, well, how do I speak and talk? Because I pride myself in speaking the way I want to speak. I don't like sugarcoating. I don't like doing that stuff. I like being honest. This is who I am. You love me or you hate me. And so I say that to answer your question, as I know that's a whole roundabout answer to it, but like I it's unexpected because it's not scary. It's a little bit. It's I guess you could say it's unexpected and it's an adjustment. Like you got to adapt when you're right out of sports. Every athlete that you talked about that went from college or pro into the real world, they're like, I've talked to a lot of them. They're like, "How's that transition, man?" And they smile. They're like, "How's that transition?" I go, "Whew, that transition is something." And they're like, oh yeah, man. Like you're gonna get through it. Like it's a whole deal. Like, hey, buddy, you got it. Like, and so that's where I've been able to lean on a lot of former athletes that are moving into the business world. It's a transition. I mean, I'm not one to label anything. I think like I don't believe in labels and all that stuff, but like it's weird. Like it is weird, but there is the light at the end of the tunnel. You start understanding it. You start kind of calming down. And I feel like where I'm at right now, I feel like I'm really starting to grasp what it means to not be an athlete and what it means to be a businessman. And it's been a fun, I guess fun. It's been an interesting process, you could say.
For sure, because like I was because when I got there, I got to the Christian Street. I was like, why he looks so familiar? I was like, I looked at it, like, why he looks so familiar? I just didn't want to put two and two. And I was like, oh, he knows. I was like, how do you know who I was?
Yeah.
But but I was like, I feel very honored. I was like, yes. But to see you help, to see you like, first of all, you and Sam are couples, relationship goals. Like it's like just to hear y'all's love story, y'all have like just it's like one it's but shout out to both of y'all. Like y'all made Queen's Retreat Athlete Con amazing. And my question for you is like, with both you and Sam helping building Athlete Con together, what's it like to see it make such a huge impact from like the summer of 2024 when it first created to like now everybody want to like just get to know it, be part of it, everything.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's not even Ashley, it's not me. I mean, it's just Sam. Like I got my own endeavors with baseball and crypto and other things I do and holistic pitching path. Like those are my passions. Those are my loves. Sam in her own right, she's her own entity, like with this stuff. Like, yes, we cross, we help each other. Like she helps me, I help her. But like, I don't really mess a lot with her business besides maybe some operational stuff behind the scenes, maybe some planning, some logistics stuff, some scheduling things. But I like to say it's 90% of Sam just going and just building. I mean, she's been doing this stuff, DECA, FBLA, since high school. And she won nationals and president of DECA, all that stuff. Like she is a true born entrepreneur. I mean, she really is. She got me into this stuff. Like I was just a baseball player back in the day. I didn't care at all about entrepreneurship. And Sam, with her work ethic and her visions, she got me into that stuff. And I started finding a lot of joy and being my own boss and, building and creating and failing and all these things. So, what I think is happening right now is Sam has really started to make a statement within the NIL space. I mean, she started 3 years ago just hustling, just working, creating content. White backdrops is what we call it. Like white backdrop, put a camera in front of you, hit record and go. And just like she speaks from her heart. And so I think that resonates with people. And she's not phony. She's not out to use anyone. She's out to truly be authentic and help athletes. Like bottom line, because athletes are so used to being used that all of a sudden someone comes in and says, no, I'm not trying to make $1 off you. And that's something, as you've seen, like athletes fly into AthleteCon sponsored. Like they don't pay. Like, they don't pay for their tickets and all the food and the hotels. Like all that stuff is covered. Or, we try to do the absolute best we can to make sure it's sponsored 99.9%. And so that's what's so cool is like, this is about the athletes. This is about their story. It's not about Sam. It's not about me. It's about the athletes. And it's about resourcing the athletes to be creators. And as an athlete that is now a creator, I love the brand. I absolutely love the AthleteCon brand. I think what Sam's built for 1 year, going AthleteCon 1.0 to raising a lot of money to making a big splash into space to now Queen's Retreat. It's like, holy crap, this is just year one. Like, where are we going to be year 5 from now?
For sure. Like, do you feel like in ways that when you just start and you just said you finally started creating content, correct me if I'm wrong, do you feel like, Sam inspired you to create the content with your sport as well as continue to help people that want to get into baseball?
Hands down. Absolutely hands down. I have no, I was a typical athlete that was scared to post anything out there that, oh my God, if I put myself out there, I'm going to get made fun of. Like, we get it. We go through it on a day to day. We talk to athletes. Sam talks to athletes. The main reason why athletes are not putting themselves out there, the number one reason is the fear of judgment from their family, friends, and teammates. That is it. It's the number one reason. People are afraid to put themselves out there and to not look perfect. That is it. And as an athlete, as someone that we like to be perfect, I had a very hard time putting myself out there. Now, because of Sam, I don't care at all. I mean, you've seen my content. I post everything and anything. Like, I truly don't care what people think about me besides my family. I do really appreciate my family and my close friends. I do value what they say, but outside people I don't know, I don't care if you judge me. I don't care if you laugh at me. I don't care at all. And Sam really got me to get over that hump as an athlete. Like, I was, her first test subject. And so now that she's starting to do that with other people, she's starting to see these brands pop up. And I mean, she's scaled a lot of people's brands and helped them become who they were, which is cool to see.
For sure. And there's a couple quick questions because I know we are on the whole time limit right now. So, and but shout out to you for real for allowing me to interview you for real. So,
thanks for having me, for real. You're good.
So my question for you is, when it comes to your sport, but also NIL as well as, whether it's advocating, how important is representation in sports?
Like as an agent?
Anything.
I think it's important. I think that as an athlete, I think you would want to, when I was going through this process, I had different agents and different agencies and different managers and stuff like that. As an athlete, we think we can do everything ourselves, or at least I did. And that mindset maybe wasn't the best because it was maybe a little bit like representation, to answer your question, is very important. It's very important. Like, an athlete's brain, we are very ambitious. We want to be investors. We want to create businesses. We want to do this and that and do all these things. But it is important to have somebody that is that speaks, that's someone that's like, they don't control you. Like, representation is very important. And I want this to be known. You should never be controlled by an agent. You should work collaboratively with that person, right? And that's where I ran into issues, is I did not like agents or representation managers that told me what to do. I wanted to have an open discussion. I wanted to bounce something off of you, and I wanted you to then bounce it back off of me and say, Ty, that's a great idea, or that's a bad idea. And so for me, representation for athletes, you got to kind of know where you're at. If you don't know anything about money, don't be your own representation for money. Like, if you don't know anything about branding, don't just launch a brand without knowing. Like, confide into people, because there are experts out there. And so to answer your question, I know I always get long-winded and I come back to it, but like, it's important to give the context, because the context does matter. You can't just, I don't like answering yes or no. I like giving you the context. And so with that being said, like, representation matters. It's important. It's not a yes or no. It's to each their own. Like, who knows? Maybe you need representation. Maybe you don't. I've played with athletes that made $50 million and they had no agent and they negotiated their own deal. So, I think overall it's smart to have representation. It's just not needed.
I'm with you on the context part, because I could get at times like the explanation, you try to get to the example, but it's like, okay, let me get back to it. But it's like, I understand what you meant.
Okay, good.
I'm here for it. It's the same way. It's like, I try to give an example, but I promise you, I'm going straight back to the thing. So
yeah, the context matters. It just does. It's It's a lot of details that go into the stuff.
Exactly. I wish people would understand, like, context be like, a lot of people don't understand. Context could be very helpful if say some people it's not like a, like a detail learner, but like give details like visual, but it's all good. So, but my question for you is, as an athlete yourself, but also a business person, how important is mental health?
Mental health it's not just important, it's everything. I mean, it just is. It just is. But physical health can bring good mental health, and good mental health can bring physical health. Like you can, and what I mean by that is, let's say you're physically in a really good spot, but mentally, let's back up. Meaning working out, going on walks, being mindful, doing stuff that makes endorphins go to your brain and kind of make you happy. Riding a bike, physical activity. It's proven science where like physical activity can help you. Now that's just another aspect of mental health, but like meditations, right? Not being an angry person, not being addicted to substances, not doing things that are not who you should be. Like all those things go into it, and then you have the aspect of mental health where like some people are born, maybe more predisposed to ailments or to genetic things, and so like maybe they're already starting off on like a tougher spot, and so they got to work harder to get that mental health up. Some people are born and they got no worries in the world, and they're just happy and they're go lucky and no problem. And so what I like to say is mental health is big, physical health is big, but having self-awareness, having a sense of self is actually the most important part. If you can sit there and you can be like, I'm not happy, I need to change that. That is more important than going and just doing physical activity, because now you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I going on a walk? Why am I meditating? Self-awareness. If you don't have self-awareness to why you're unhappy, then you're never going to change it. Like, and that's the biggest thing. So if you have self-awareness is the most important piece. Then once you get that, then you can improve your mental health. Then you can improve your physical health. But a lot of people they avoid the self-awareness and they just go, well, I'm out of shape, I got to go train, but they're not happy now. Or I have no money and I got to go get a lot of money and let me go get money, but I'm still not happy. It's like, no, you're skipping the most important part. Like, who are you as a person? Get that thing figured out and then build up there. So yes, to go back to your question, mental health is very important. It's everything. Like if someone's unhappy or they're depressed or they're anxious, those emotions and those feelings will drive someone crazy. Like it just will. But if you have the self-awareness, you can kind of step back and be like, okay, why am I unhappy? Why am I depressed? Why is that? Like, I love the question why, because when there's a why, there's always an answer, in my opinion.
Oh, when there is a why, there's an answer to clock it, or as they say, T-A. I'm here for it. Yes.
Well, good.
There's a why.
Well, I appreciate it, Ashley. I got to get rolling. I got a big steak that's kind of why I planned my steak, my dinner wrong, but hopefully let's do this again. And I'd love to come back on and collab with me, send me some clips, and congrats to you. The fact that you're in 100 plus shows, still rolling, man. I can't wait to see you at 2,000 shows. I can't wait to see you at 5,000 shows. Like, just don't give up on this, because this is really, really cool, and your energy is awesome. Sam and I love you to death, for real.
Appreciate it. Can you let the viewers know where they can follow you real quickly?
Yeah, at Ty Buttrey on Instagram and at Ty Buttrey _ on X. Those are my two biggest platforms.
Big shout out to Ty for sharing your story. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 104 of Bonafide Her podcast. Thank you guys. Peace.